So this is our first of many skill videos on the year, and the goal of these skill videos is to give you an additional resource on particular types of problems that we're going to see a lot, and skills that you might forget, but should be able to come back and recover if you're willing to take the time to watch the videos. When you work at night, you watch this as many times as you want. Pause, try to duplicate what's on here, okay? Look at the way that I set up the steps, and then go back into your own work and repeat it. First skill we worked on in class the other day was addition of fractions. So I've got 3/4 plus 1/2. I want to add those fractions together. We talked about, okay, I need that common denominator. So the common denominator here, I'm looking at 4 and 2. Well, the least common denominator is going to be 4 between those two numbers. So it's 3/4 plus, and now I need to change 1/2 into 4th. And in order to do that, I make sure that I multiply the top and bottom by the same thing. So I multiply by 2 to get to 4, so I multiply by 2 on the top. And when I add these two things together, I get 5/4. That's my answer. Pretty straightforward. I mean, this is stuff that you've been doing for a long time, so it shouldn't be that surprising, and it should be relatively familiar. Well, let's let it get a little bit more complicated, and let's just pause on the process for a second. The process for adding and subtracting fractions. Step 1, convert all fractions to the same denominator. Then step 2, add or subtract the numerators as necessary. That's really it. The first part might be a little bit more complicated depending on how we go about finding that common denominator. So let's look at a harder example. 4/7 minus 2/5. This is our second example. Alright, so I'm looking for numbers, or I'm looking for some number in the bottom here. I'm going to change both of them. That 7 and 5, alright, are both factors of. And we said in class that we can always default to multiplying those numbers together. We can always default to just the product of our denominators, and that should work. Now on top, right, it's the original 4 that I had times 5, because I had to multiply 7 by 5 in the first fraction to get 35. And for the second one, it's 2 times 7, because that's what I had to multiply on the bottom to get to 35. And the result is that I have 20 over 35 minus 14 over 35, which ends up being 6 over 35. So we have an answer of 6 over 35 for the second problem. So that, again, that default of the common denominator is always going to be, right, one common denominator. Not the least, but 1 is always the product between the denominators we start with. Alright, last example. Now I have 3. Right? Well, the process doesn't change any if I have 3 fractions sitting in front of me. Rather, I just need to make sure that all of them have the same common denominator. In this case, it's going to be 12. 6 and 4 both divide 12, so I can change all of them to 12. So let's do that first. I'm going to need to multiply 2 times 2 when I switch to 12. And it's 3 times 3 when I switch to 12. Minus 1/12. And that's going to equal something. So I get 4 over 12 plus 9 over 12 minus 1/12. So it looks like this actually ends up being equal to 12 over 12, or as we would better call it, to 1. Hopefully this little brief demonstration will help you if you're struggling with the homework tonight. We will be working on fraction multiplication and division tomorrow, so we'll have the chance to expand on this video.